Yes,
All right,
wonderful.
perfect.
So our plant forum is where during our in-person meetings where we do bring plants in, as you can see from the background of this picture, to speak about them, sometimes to get identification, and just to try and get the knowledge about some of these plants out there into the world, and for people to understand what can be grown in Southern California. So first slide. So this is from Mary Montez, and it's actually a double, two for one here. It's two types of ribes, is ribes indecorum and ribes aureum. The first one, indecorum, is the white flowering currant. I haven't grown this one myself, but they both appear to enjoy the same conditions, which is sort of partial shade. They do need some sun. Ribes aureum, on my soil anyway, is rampant. It's a big plant and it seeds itself around. Both of these are currants. They both produce wonderful fruit. The ribes aureum fruit is probably a little more tasty to people. They're both adored by birds. So this is a wonderful plant to have. Both of them are wonderful plants to have in your yard to attract bird life. And definitely the flowers attract birds and insects. And they're fairly easy to grow and will generally lose most of their foliage in the drier part of late summer. But again, easy to grow and easy to clean up. And so next slide. This is from Sandy Masua. This is Ipheon uniflorum. It's one of the really diminutive members of the Amaryllis family, and it is from Argentina and Uruguay. These are tough. They're tough little bulbs. These will also move around the garden on their own. They'll seed and they'll multiply underground. They're also quite reliably drought tolerant to at least a certain extent. I've seen them used really effectively underneath oak trees. They can make a carpet, at least in the sunnier sector, like the more dappled shade where you get some sunlight. And they make really a nice carpet effect when they're in full bloom. They're really quite beautiful. The little star flowers, they come in this pale kind of purple blue on the tips. There's a variety that's actually easier to find out there if you're in the market for these. It's called Rolf Fiedler, and it's a little darker purple blue. And then there's also a white form of this that I think we showed. I think Joan Citron showed this a while back, probably last year at this time. And so they're tough customers and very easy. Next slide. This is Echeveria agavoides, a wax plant from Mexico. It's a very easy to grow succulent. A couple of things you want to avoid is harsh, hot midday sun and frost and overwatering. That's about the only things you need to avoid for this. Otherwise, they're tough plants. They multiply. You can pull off the offsets and root them up and make more or give them away. And they do these wonderful, they produce wonderful wands of flowers that kind of arch over, and then you have little hanging bells, some of them sometimes outward facing, and they come in all colors from cream through yellows to orange to coral to pink to red. So the Echeverias all tend to bloom at this time of year and attract hummingbirds and other pollinators. And as Sandy points out, there are many different cultivars, particularly, and of this particular one, the Agavoides, there's one called Lipstick that has bright red leaf margins. It's fairly expensive if you want to go and find one, but they're really quite something. And again, easy to propagate. So next slide. This is Ferraria crispa, the Starfish Iris from South Africa. I was lucky enough on my trip to see these right at the shoreline down in Hermanus. These were growing with calla lilies and native pelargoniums. So it was like having a Southern California garden at the tip of South Africa. I mean, because we grow them. This is a very easy to grow bulb. In my heavy soil, I need to grow mine in pots, but they will grow in the open ground in fairly loose soil. They tend to like well-drained soils. They start coming up in late September, early October. They start showing foliage, and they bloom at this time of year. And these flowers are really quite intricate. If you look at the edges of those petals, they're almost like folded material. It almost looks like the frills of a dress or something. And you get all of these different colors from really dark chocolate browns in through pale beige, and she said turquoise. I haven't seen the turquoise one. That would be really interesting. They also produce quite a nice fragrance. It's a bit like sweet and sort of old-fashioned for something that looks this exotic, but these are very easy to grow. And if you know anyone with them, you can beg some, even some seeds. These things will seed around. They also produce smaller bulblets off of the main bulbs, and they just need to dry out in the summer, late summertime. Next slide. This is Clivia Miniata. There's many different hybrids out there, and this is from John Schuster at Greenwood. John's our current president, and it's a peach-colored one. This, I know April I saw her posting about this. She took this picture in the morning when the sun was just hitting it, and it's a peachier orange, which it shows up even better in person. This is really quite an impressive plant, and it's a nice display of the flowers. It's in a nice like tight ball on the end of the stem. Clivias are fairly easy to grow in partial shade, in well-drained soil. They require regular watering, nothing too special. They're not very demanding, and will actually produce easy to grow seeds and offsets eventually. So be on the lookout. There's wonderful, there's yellow, there's variegated foliage, there's some that are almost red, there's different species as well, but all worth looking into. Next slide. And this is Brugmancia Candida, and it's listed here as shredded white. It's variously called handkerchiefs, shredded white, and shredded white handkerchiefs. It goes by all three names, but what this is I think it's probably a genetic mutation that causes this multiple flowers to form from a single bud. And so you get this effect of, it looks like folded linen or something. It's really quite an impressive looking plant when it's in full bloom. And as easy to grow as the other Brugmansias. They like their water. I found that they do tend to suffer a bit if they're not getting as much water as they want. She said this took three years from a cutting to bloom, so it seems to take a little bit longer to reach blooming size. And next slide, or was that the last? No, we have Calyandra. This is Calyandra eriophylla, and this is from Baja and the southern part of Southern California into Arizona. And this is called fairy duster. There's also kind of overlapping in the same range. There's Calyandra californica, the bright red one. And you can see these in Anza Borrego. I've seen the Calyandras. They're an open shrub. They're never super dense, but they bloom for quite a long time when they flower, and they're very tough in the right spot. They will put up with heat and drought and full sun, baking, just really quite hot locations. I was curious. I actually looked up if Calyandra eriophylla and Calyandra californica cross. Well, I don't know if they do in the wild, but there is a cross that's offered out there by, I think it was like Mountain States or something. This is the harder one to find. The red one is a much more common in nursery trade, but if you do find this one out there and you are putting together a drought tolerant or a native garden and want to attract hummingbirds and other pollinators, these are great for that. So I think that might be our final. Yes. So you can submit photos or even short videos of plants. You can ask us to help identify a plant for you. But if you do, please try and take the best possible picture and then give us as much information